We analyze the performance of the stock markets around the world, the stock markets here in Uganda, across Nairobi, and generally what's happening in the global markets, that is to say, on the financial market scene. You can always follow us on Twitter at Smart24TV. You can leave a comment as well in the comment section on our YouTube live stream at Smart24TV Live. You can also get to us through Facebook at Smart24TV official. And of course, that way we'll be able to interact. If you have any questions, any concerns that you would want to put across, please don't you feel shy. Just hit us up on our social media and we'll get you covered. Of course, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, the #1 private stock exchange in East Africa, making bonds accessible and other financial instruments, including exchange-traded funds, or the ETFs. And Altex East Africa has been in Uganda in operation for quite some time, since 2017. They are licensed by the Capital Markets Authority, and currently they're doing a ZABU initiative in which they have partnered with MTN Uganda. And now, using that initiative, you can be able to access different treasury bonds across East Africa. For starters, we're talking about lending governments in East Africa. We have the Kenyan bonds, the Tanzanian bonds, and the Ugandan bonds. All you need is your small phone or your smartphone. No need to go to the internet. Just simply go into the keypad and dial *292#. And when you do that, follow the prompts. You will either be able to buy or sell different bonds across East Africa. The market at Altex opens at exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 8 and closes at 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. And of course, you will be able to transact from your mobile money. That is if you're using MTN as well as Airtel. And the money will be transacted from your MTN Momo, and that will be going to Altex. And you will receive a notification message shortly. Altex East Africa doing something new. And of course, that of course is what you need to know about Altex East Africa. They have other products, like I mentioned, the exchange traded funds, and yes, and they're still bringing in more. So you should check them out, actually, if you have not. Now, it's a Wednesday, and the US stock market, as we have, of course, seen before at the beginning of the week, the market continues to stumble. And we have witnessed at least the Dow Jones come up at least by the end of the Tuesday trading, that is on the United States stock market. But we're still seeing generally a very average performance from the stock markets in the United States. Remember, we are closing into the fourth quarter, and of course, we're looking at the third quarter earnings rather, from the stock market there. Still declining compared to last year, but also the anticipation of most investors who anticipated the year 2022 actually has been proved inaccurate, as of course most of them thought that maybe probably by this time the pandemic will be contained and companies will be doing extremely well. Well, it's not the case. Companies on the Nasdaq exchange, companies on the New York Stock Exchange, we're talking about the S&P 500 index, as well as the Dow Jones index and the Nasdaq Composite, are still witnessing a bear market, and there are signs of a recession in the United States. And of course, this is very alarming. But as I already mentioned, you must be careful and make sure you don't actually get to quit, because many people think that, oh, things are so bad, the markets are red, this is the time to quit. Well, it's not the time to quit. It's the time to take precaution. It's a time to buy for some people, and it's a time to reinvest for some other people. So you must be calculative of the steps you're taking when it comes to trading on the stock market. Not only the US markets, but also our Uganda Stock Exchange has a similar picture like we are seeing on the United States stock market. We are still witnessing a bear market here in East Africa, particularly here in Uganda. Kenya is doing a little bit better with their all-share index soaring in yesterday's trading by over 2.69 or rather 2.8 points. And our stock market here in Uganda declining very significantly, closing, looking at a 0.68 decline in the all-share index on the Tuesday trading. So we're still, of course, in a very turbulent economic time. This is a time of inflation. The Russian war has not come to an end. Supply chains have still been disrupted by several other factors, pandemic recovery, and of course the weakening shilling. And so there's still a lot to take care of when it comes to the economy, generally speaking. But we shall not quit. And definitely this show is here to encourage you to make more research, to encourage you to seek opportunity in the midst of all the haze around the economy, and get to make sure you make use of your money wisely and play your cards right. Being very specific, the Uganda Stock Exchange declined by close to 0.06% based on the benchmark index, that is the all-share index at the Uganda Stock Exchange. This all-share index tracks the aggregate performance of all the 18 listed stocks on the stock market there in Uganda. And so we're seeing that the stock market declined after the day's trading, and only about 5 companies have participated in the trades out of the 18 listed companies, ending the day with a total of 4 gainers and disappointingly as well 4 losers. The top gainers, unfortunately, we didn't have any domestic stock. I'm very interested in the domestic companies because this is where we have most of the activity. You're looking at most of the cross-listed companies, of course, shifting in price, not because of the intensity of activity around these stocks, but rather factors surrounding how these stocks have performed on their local or domestic exchanges back home, in particular on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And now, regardless, we had Centum Investment lead the gainers at a 2.18% price appreciation, closing the day with a price of 283.76 Ugandan shillings per share, followed by Kenya Commercial Bank, who appreciated by about 0.63%, and Kenya Airways, who appreciated at about 0.13% on the stock market, and Nation Media Group, who appreciated close to 0.13% on the stock market yesterday. On the losing side, we still had East African Breweries, who is also cross-listed, coming at the bottom of the table. And this was after a daily loss of 0.6% on their price, closing at 4,338.79 Ugandan shillings. The second last company was Jubilee Holdings, who also lost close to 0.6%, and then Equity Bank also lost 0.21%. And coming also amongst the bottom losers was MTN Uganda, who lost a margin of 0.15% on stock market there in their price valuation. However, in terms of trading, amongst the top 5 participants, Stanbic Bank was the top mover, who recorded the highest volume, closing the day with a total trade of 129,600 traded shares on the stock market, and followed by MTN Uganda, who traded close to 51,388 shares on the stock market. Uganda Clays also returned with some activity there after having traded close to 14,500 shares on the stock market there in Uganda. And Cipla Quality Chemical Industries also had some activity after some time at 3,830 shares rather on the stock market. Cipla is the only pharmaceutical company that is listed on the stock exchange, and of course that gives it an advantage of not having stiff competition, or rather some people could view it as a disadvantage, but still we are seeing the pharmaceutical industry still not as being brought out very much on the stock markets here in East Africa. For example, on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, we don't have any pharmaceutical company, yet we have quite a number of them that are processing, pharmaceutical doses there in Nairobi. And also in Tanzania, same thing, we don't have any pharmaceutical company. So it is significant that we actually have a one pharmaceutical company, at least for the Uganda Stock Exchange, and we hope even more pharmaceutical companies can come on board. Remember, as you're investing, you don't just invest because of a pricing or whatsoever. You also have to look at the sector. The pharmaceutical sector is one sector that is viewed as steady and quite strong, because regardless of the performance of the economy, people who are sick will still need medicines. People who have HIV will still need to take their ARVs. People who get malaria, we are living in a tropical climate region, and so people who are falling sick for malaria will have to, of course, get medicine. And so these are sectors that will have a consistent performance, at least in the long term. And so when you're investing in them, definitely you are sure that probably this stock, even if things are so bad, the stock will remain resilient. And so one of those sectors is pharmaceutical. Of course, we have several others, technology, which we don't have yet in Uganda, telecommunications currently frontlined by the MTN company who listed last year, and we're hoping even more telecommunications company come in. We have utility services, like people offering electricity services. For example, Meme, who is in charge of distribution and supply of electricity here in Uganda. Those are sectors that you're looking at as quite strong and resilient to beleaguered economies like we are seeing right now. So you can rely on them and say, at least I'll have some stock in Cipla, I'll have some stock in the telecommunications, because people will communicate regardless of how bad the economy is. But during the lockdown, there was no movement. So if you're investing in, for example, a travel company in the lockdown, you would be on a disadvantage because you're not sure how this company is going to make money. And remember, if a company is not making money, it will not attract investors. Investors are looking for money makers, they're looking for game changers, and they're looking for profitability. And so you must be willing to look out for those companies that you think, and those sectors that you think are going to boom, at least within a specific season. And of course, some industries are seasonal, like the entertainment industry around the month of December. Of course, still we don't have an entertainment probably company that is listed on the exchange. But if we had one towards the month of December, this is a time when people are going out more often than they would. And so you would expect such a company to make more money. You would expect people to be interested in buying shares into such a company. And so industrial sector-based investment is quite important if you are to make it on the stock market, especially here in Uganda for starters. And of course, for people who have been ardent investors as well, it is important that you make calculated decisions when investing, especially in particular sectors, with a rationale for investing in those particular sectors. Now, back to the stock market. The index, like I mentioned, paired close to 0.68%, rather 0.68 points, and a 0.06 percentage drop that was registered at closing of 1,219.9 33 points, representing a 1-week loss of 3.3% and a 4-week loss of 5.59%, and a year-to-date loss of 14.17%, meaning we still have a journey to make towards the end of the year. As of course, on the year-to-date, we are still on a very big loss of 14.17%. Shall we be able to make up for this loss? I don't know, but we hope so. And so definitely this is going to only come if you actually make a decision to become an investor in our stock markets here in Uganda. For those of you who are already investors, thank you very much, and thank you for making that bold step. But for those of you who are not, for starters, this is a very active market, and we are looking towards growing our market. Expanding our market will only take a participation of everyone. If you are already having children, consider buying for them some shares in MTN. We never know where these shares could go in the next 50 years. Have a longer term vision for your children, for your family, and for your finances. Don't look at today. Look at 10 years, 5 years from now. Where do you want to see yourself financially? Do you want to be still going to work every single day, working 3 jobs at the age of 50? You don't want that. So if you're 25, buy some shares. You never know what could happen. It is told that there's a story told that there's a man who invested in the stock market in the 1940s in London. That is on the London Stock Exchange. They have the FTSE, of course, the Financial Times Stock Exchange in London. And there's an analogy that says that back then, if you bought shares or if you had any shares worth close to £1, right now they are worth over £45,000. Now imagine you had, for example, 10,000. You would be probably about £4 million worth of shares, having over 4.5 million worth of shares or whatsoever on the Financial Times Stock Exchange. Meaning people can actually make money in the long term. But if you enter thinking of gaining tomorrow, that is exactly where most people go wrong. You must be willing to be patient. You must be willing to put in the work and take baby steps towards investment. And for starters, if you want to make a living out of the stock exchange, have a longer term vision. And of course, today, decide to open an account. Opening an account is absolutely free of charge. You don't have to pay any money to open the account. You can use 2 ways. You can first of all use your mobile phone by going to www.use.org.ug, and then you go to Easy Portal after visiting the website of the Uganda Securities Exchange. And on the Easy Portal, there's a that Easy Portal has options to put in your details. That is your national identification number. Of course, you must have a national ID for identity as a Ugandan citizen, or a passport for a foreigner. And then after entering those details, you will be asked for the picture of your ID and then your passport photograph there to be uploaded. And of course, your account will be opened for you with no delay. Another way, which has been made, of course, possible by MTN, you can dial *165 *57 hash using your MTN line if you're an MTN subscriber, and follow the prompts. You will be able still to, of course, put in your national identification number and other details, and the account will be open to you in less than 24 hours. When you open the account, the next step is going through a stockbroker. A stockbroker is an intermediary who stands between you and the stock market. They trade on your behalf. And in Uganda, so far the rules are you cannot trade unless you're going through a stockbroker. So you must have a stockbroker. Currently, the Capital Markets Authority has licensed 5 companies or entities to be stockbroker or stock brokerage firms in Uganda. The most recent one is Cheaper Technologies. We have had also Dyer and Blair, Standard Bank Group Securities, SBG. We've also had Capital, Crested Capital, and UAP Old Mutual Services These are the licensed stockbrokers. They will never take your money. They are only going to get to invest on your behalf on the stock market and provide a clear statement, just like the way you carry out a bank transaction. When you withdraw money, when you deposit money, you get a statement. So the stockbroker will give you a statement every single day you transact. And they also, of course, give you education to learn more of how you can choose a share, how you can choose which company to invest in, and so many other interesting facts there. We're going to take a quick breather, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching Financial Markets. Remember, we are the only channel that gives you business content 24 hours, 7 days a week. And we are proudly sponsored by Autox East Africa. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick breather.